tell you, I'm kind of in a tough boat right now because I'm standing between you and eating, so I don't want to be up there too long because that's a tough spot. The only other worst spot when you are giving a speech in the Marine Corps is right after somebody's eating and they're trying to keep their eyes open if you're not that dynamic. So I'm not sure which one is worse right now, but I'm going to keep it short, but to the point. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Chris and John. They got a hold of me about a month or so ago and asked me if I'd like to come out and be the guest speaker, and I couldn't say no for this organization and what they do and being out here to be with you all this evening during this fundraiser. And also, I'm very humbled tonight to be here along with you because there's a lot of folks that I would think that would be probably the better guest speaker than me because of what they've done in the past to get everybody to this point. But I really appreciate it. I'm humbled to be here this evening, and thank you very much for having me here tonight. You know, when I was, just to kind of go back and start a little bit about me, my first combat experience that I've got, I was a little bit older. I wasn't 19, I wasn't 20. I was a gunnery sergeant. I was the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, and we went to Iraq in OAF-2 in June of 2004. We participated in November in the 2nd Battle of Fallujah, and that was our big, pretty much taste of real combat, besides just doing patrols and doing the patrols around Haditha and so forth. But when we got there, I'll tell you, the young Marines of this generation performed just like what you read in the history books. Those young guys that I was serving with never hesitated. They went headstrong right into combat. They never hesitated to kick down a door, to face the enemy head on, and to fight that enemy head on. Never once, they never took a step backwards. And this young generation that we have now, and some of these young men and women that we're serving with, that I see in my regiment, they were only probably 5 or 6 years old when 9/11 happened. They have grown up with the war on terror that we know of. And they're still joining, they're still going forward and serving and fighting for this country without hesitation. And that is something to say about these young men and women that we've got serving out there today. It is. Because I know there's some folks here from the Air Wing, and I'll tell you, I've served with the Air Wing. I did a combat deployment with HMH 361, and I'll tell you, our helicopters were coming back daily with bullet holes through them, took rocket hits, and we were very lucky we didn't lose anybody there. But I'll tell you, the same thing for those young Marines serving in the Air Wing, flying those helicopters into landing zones that were hot. Never once hesitated to go in there and pick up those young infantry guys, those ground troops, that their mission to do, and they went out there and they did it without hesitation. And like I said, this generation has done great things. This organization, you know, unfortunately in war we have casualties. This organization is there to make sure that they are not forgotten. Right now, the combat operations are winding down in Afghanistan. In 1st Marines, we've got our last battalion deployed right now in combat. They're scheduled to all be back in States probably around December time frame. They've been bloody. As a matter of fact, myself, my colonel went down and visited some of their wounded warriors down at Balboa Wednesday in the spirit of Lance Corporal Salazar, double amputee, lost both legs, stepped on an IED. Probably around mid-June. But when we met that Marine, we sat down with him, his wife's 5 months pregnant, he's got a 5-year-old son. All he wanted to do was like, I want to stay in, Sergeant Major. What can I do to stay in the Marine Corps? The thought of losing his legs, that was an afterthought. He's like, I'm going to get new legs, I'm going to be walking. But that spirit of a guy that just happened, and he was more worried about his other Marines that were wounded that are still in Walter Reed. But that spirit, I mean, when we walked out of there, me and the colonel were just shaking our head like, couldn't believe it, how those Marines are taking catastrophic injuries and just keep pressing. But the ones that we've lost, this organization is making sure that they're not forgotten. They're going to put their faces on the banners. They're going to get them out to make sure that that is just not a name. There's a face, there's a history behind that, where that young Marine came from, young sailor, airman, sailor, where they came from, who they were, and what they did for this country. And that's what this organization does, and that's a great thing. Kind of like what Marty said, past generations Vietnam, Korea, they did not get the welcome home. My father was a Korean War veteran, and he said, I can always remember him saying, I never got a parade when I came back from Korea. But we've learned from that, and we're doing a lot better, and we're making sure that these young men and women that are going forward are getting taken care of and coming home to the right welcome and being taken care of. But we can't forget, because the families are the ones that are fighting that battle now. The service member who's passed on, his fight's done. But it's the families that had to take that news, had to get that knock on the door and be notified that that their son or daughter has paid the ultimate sacrifice. That's what we're here for. That's what this organization does. And you know what, let's give them one round of applause for that. But with that, like I said, we're doing great things. 1st Marine Regiment here at Camp Pendleton appreciates all the support from the local community. We can't get along without you. And what I've seen since coming back to Camp Pendleton or coming back to the West Coast, the outreach of the units being adopted by the local communities here has been incredible. We've got units that are adopted by Irvine, all over the place, Rancho Bernardo, and the support that these cities have given over the last 10 years. It's changed quite a bit from when I first got to Camp Pendleton back in 1986. You can see the outreach due to the fact of the last 10 years of what we've been doing in the war on terror. But with that, like I said, I don't want to stand in between me and the food, you guys and the food, but you know, thank you very much once again for having the chance to come out and speak, participate in this event, this fundraiser for this great organization. Chris, John, once again, thank you very much for allowing me a chance to come out and talk. And with that, God bless the United States Marine Corps, and God bless this country. Hoorah.